While I would love to start this off using our boat as the backdrop, it's unfortunately currently under what the locals are calling the shame tent. It's not the kind of escapism I would have liked to be filming, but hey, at least the guys escaped Cape Town, right? This takes us back to rebuilding the 7-month period missing from our story, from when the boys arrived in Cape Town to when they finally sailed away. The inside of our boat has gotten pretty wet in the past due to poor workmanship, and it wasn't just due to the windows, or the front door, or the leaking exhaust mixer hose, leaking skylight, the leaking chain plate, the leaking deck fittings. It was also the leaking hatches. On our hull, 5 of the deck hatches have leaked, and this equates to 50% of all of the deck hatches on the boat. Now, if you add to that the other 4 leaking hatches, you're looking at 9, which is approximately 40% of all hatches installed on our Leopard. That being said, at least our hatches were more consistently installed than the windows. Initially in Cape Town, the guys didn't know how to test a hatch adequately, thinking that a simple spray with the hose was enough. But after the weather changed and the boat sustained heavy rain, further hatches were noticed to leak. It taught us that spraying hatches from the top with a light, low-pressure marina hose spray is not enough volume of water to replicate a wave or heavy rain. But I'll talk more about leak testing hatches in a minute. Now, there are various, let's say, cooler normal things that can happen, which can cause your hatches to leak. If the bolts are done up using power tools like a drill, it can cause leaks down the bolt and drastically over-torque the soft alloy frames, damaging them. If the hatch rubber is torn, it prevents an adequate seal from forming and allows water inside. If the latch doesn't contact the plastic retaining point correctly, it allows for movement that then means the hatch isn't sealed and water can come in.
You do the hatch up, and now there's so much movement in the hatch.
And if someone really heavy jumps or stands on a hatch, allegedly this can distort the frame and also cause leaks. When Lewmar hatches are installed, there's actually a set deck tolerance that's specified in the paperwork that comes in the box.
This is an ongoing problem with this particular hatch. It's like the deck's not flat enough that it's installed into.
Now, owners don't usually see this paperwork, but on our boat, we've seen enough new hatches come out of the boxes that we have a few copies. For this series of flush hatches, the hatch needs to be fitted to a flat surface with a maximum tolerance of plus or minus 1 millimeter. This applies to all boats this type of hatch is fitted to, and the preciseness required might explain some of the leak issues we've had. The holes must be marked and drilled in the deck to exactly match the holes in the soft alloy frame so as to not pull the frame in different directions and distort it when the bolts are carefully done up by hand to 3 Newton meters, not with power tools. I don't know if they ever saw a torque wrench in Cape Town.
Yeah.
You ever see a torque wrench when you're in Cape Town?
Only when they put the new engine in.
What about the hatches?
No, they just used a battery drill and a socket set.
As anyone who has heard a little bit about our story would probably be able to guess, having the hatches rectified was a process. The hatch in the port rear bathroom was replaced, continued to leak into the bilge, and was just replaced again in Trinidad. One of the clearly leaking hatches on the starboard side was not rectified by the warranty team. Instead, they treated it more like a DIY IKEA boat.
We went through the process of them replacing the hatch, but when it was done, we leak tested it and water still ran into the hull. Instead of persisting and actually rectifying the problem,
they refused to rectify the leaking hatch and instead gave us this brand new one in the box and told us to do it ourselves like it was a IKEA boat. And you can tell it's from Robertson and Caine because it's got the job number and quantity label that comes from the bond store in the factory. So they've just taken this from the factory and gone, here you go.
The boat's basically a Robertson and Caine and Spencer and Lampshire now.
No, it's a kit boat. So we managed to modify and reinstall the existing hatch without using this one. Installing a new hatch isn't going to rectify the problem. It bends the hatch down so it isn't a permanent repair.
Another hatch was replaced, but during the process they cracked and broke the shroud, screwing it into wet sealant. That has also been replaced in Trinidad. Multiple hatch shrouds have also had to be repaired with West systems, as during sailing they've popped out of the ceiling, presumably due to the flex. One of the Robertson and Caine warranty workers actually snuck onto the boat about 2 months after handover, didn't inform anybody he was there, and proceeded to replace a hatch that had absolutely nothing wrong with it.
So they've taken off this hatch. It wasn't leaking. And then this hatch is leaking.
Now, if he'd bothered to check the paperwork or do what I would call a basic level of courtesy and let the owners know that he was on the boat, he would have found out that he was actually in the wrong room. It was not the port rear bathroom that had a leaking top hatch, it was the port forward bathroom, which was clearly conveyed in the warranty submission. So that one was a waste of a day, a waste of a hatch, and a waste of time waiting for them to then rectify the actual hatch that was leaking. I'm sure you can imagine just how much Trent and Tynan enjoyed having to entertain and accommodate Robertson and Caine staff for several months, while also paying out thousands of additional dollars in accommodation and transportation costs, and having the aftermarket works periodically held up. Due to the windows and hatches being in various states of warranty rectification, it actually wasn't safe to install the Victron electrical system, among other things, because of the amount of water and rain coming in through windows and hatches.
Leopard engineers in 2021 claimed the national plan went directly through the dispute.
The subject of that additional accommodation being reimbursed was broached well over a year ago, and it was then included in our post-Cape Town warranty claim that was submitted to Robertson and Caine in July of 2022, which we've broken down in a previous video. Based on their response, if Robertson and Caine build an unseaworthy boat that is uninhabitable, any additional costs you incur while they have another try at building a safe boat are apparently your problem to deal with. I understand that some people think that loss of earnings and experience is debatable, but to refuse to cover the costs for a customer to sit in a mediocre Airbnb because it had to fit within Tynan's limited budget, while the shipbuilder has a go at slowly fixing warranty issues that they caused through their own poor workmanship, which made the boat uninhabitable, is an absolute farce. And to me, it shows a complete lack of empathy and respect for their customers. I realise that large corporations like Robertson and Caine like to do things a certain way, but wouldn't it be more productive, gain them greater respect from the sailing community, and put prospective new buyers' minds at ease if they had the guts to be a little more transparent, they made things right, and they showed the steps that they've put in place to be better? Just so the brokers know who to call if your sales are down. All we initially wanted in Cape Town was our warranty fixed without all the ridiculous drama and hassle. And the money for the Airbnbs, the additional accommodation, it amounted to less than 10,000 Australian dollars. We are of the opinion that transparency is the better path for everyone. So we would appreciate it if you can like, share, comment on this video to help keep the public pressure up and show them that collectively we want them to be better both in their quality control and their customer experience. This has already helped people get things fixed, us included. And that's why we chose to turn down an NDA that was attached to what some would consider a rather large cash payout. On the part of Travelopia, we don't really understand where their concern is coming from because we have no intention to speak negatively about them. There isn't much reason to or benefit to anyone, and their help here in Trinidad has been an excellent example of customer service. So they don't need to be so defensive.
You've got a great uniform on there then.
Leak testing your hatches is something we've recommended when buying or handing over a catamaran, and replacing a hatch can be a messy and somewhat difficult job. So let's run you through how we do it. To start off, we block the channels around the hatch. As we mentioned earlier, the reality is that the low pressure hoses often found at marinas can't adequately replicate the forces and amount of water from a wave. Blocking the channel helps compensate for this. We then thoroughly wet the hatch using a hose that has no attachments or a large bucket to continuously pour. One person is on the outside doing the test, while the other is inside with a towel in hand, carefully looking for signs of water ingress. In our opinion, leaks are more likely to occur when the weather is cold and the plastic and rubber have contracted. So that's it for this week's look at hatches. Hopefully we'll have an update for you soon on what's been going on here in Trinidad. But for now, the real boss on our boat is demanding my attention.